Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Michael Filios, founder and CEO of IT Ally and a CDO editorial board member. And we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jen Bachner, Director of Data Analytics and Policy from Johns Hopkins University. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really curious about this question as it relates to your program, the Master of Science in Data Analytics and Policy, as it's all about preparing students to tackle these meaningful policy challenges in government and industries. And these are big time challenges. So I'm curious to hear more about the characteristics and how you prepare these students for these opportunities, and what kinds of things will you think make them successful in this career?
Yeah, well, I have found that students who have a substantive area of interest or expertise are best prepared to do well in the program at Johns Hopkins and beyond in their careers. We are not a computer science program. We're not an engineering program in the sense that we prepare students to use analytics rather than create analytical tools. In other words, our students don't, generally speaking, they don't design algorithms, they don't create software, but they become experts at using a variety of sophisticated statistical techniques such that they can apply the most appropriate method to a particular political, policy, or governance challenge. So our students' passion is about solving real-world problems, and analytics is often a very effective way to do this. In other words, analytics in our program is a means to an end for our students. And related to this point, having substantive knowledge is critical for performing a good analysis. Anyone who does analytics will tell you that there's a tremendous amount of judgment involved, such as selecting which measures to use. You have to decide which variables you want to include in a model. An analyst has to determine whether a particular analysis suffers from bias, what kind of bias, how much bias, and they have to evaluate the real world significance of the findings. It's simply not possible to conduct a strong analysis without a firm understanding of the substantive issues at hand. So I encourage all of my students to continue developing their substantive knowledge while they're in the program and to cultivate their passion for whatever area of policy or governance drew them to the program in the first place, whether that's education or healthcare or transportation or tech or the bio and life sciences. Develop substantive knowledge in those areas so that you can make good judgments when performing analyses.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad to hear that you're helping to shape these future leaders. I think they're in good hands. One of the roles that I play, Jen, on CDO is and in the company that I run is focused on small and medium-sized businesses. And you kind of alluded to the fact that there's a tremendous amount of capability, new capability out there, technology and otherwise available. And in some respects, this is leveling the playing field for small businesses to take advantage of it. But at the same time, it requires a depth of knowledge and expertise, as you've indicated, to interpret the outputs from these robust tools. So what advice would you give to a small business, a CEO or owner of that company, and how they should think about using data available to help either grow, prepare their business for the future?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of small and medium-sized organizations, including in government, as well as the private sector, that are thinking about how to grow their analytic capabilities. And I actually have a report coming out in the next couple of weeks with the IBM Center for the Business of Government. It's titled Optimizing Analytics for Policymaking and Governance. And in this report, I offer 4 key suggestions for how to do just this. The first is to create an enterprise analytics strategy. This is a roadmap that details how the analytics group will align with and advance the goals of the overall organization. Specifically, the strategy should outline feasible and sustainable processes for how analysts will operate within the organization. And it should also describe efforts to develop a culture of evidence-based decision-making. One way that this can be achieved is by demonstrating through relatively fast and small successes the value of analytics for performance improvement. In other words, demonstrating success early and often will help launch a new analytics organization quite successfully. A second recommendation for organizations is to implement self-service models. And by this, I mean deploying tools that allow employees across an organization to access, analyze, and visualize relevant data. In this vision or in this model, members of the analytics team can then support employees in their work rather than serving as gatekeepers to data. So while data analysts might take the lead on more sophisticated or technical analytics projects, self-service models can improve data literacy across an entire organization and thereby encourage more evidence-based decision-making and more generally a data-friendly culture. Third, this is a theme that I've emphasized throughout my comments, organizations should focus on communication when developing their analytic teams. I've seen a growing appreciation that a good analyst, again, needs to be a storyteller, a data storyteller. And this means that the analysts can develop narratives, they can develop visualizations that convey the real world meaning of statistical findings to wide audiences. Analysts should be able to explain in a clear and accessible manner how an analysis was conducted, what the results mean, and just as importantly, the limitations of the results. And finally, I think it's helpful for organizations to start thinking about how they might leverage AI and machine learning tools in the future. This, of course, should be done through the lens of advancing the organization's mission, as opposed to just using these tools for their own sake or because they're new and exciting or cool. It's a great time for analytics groups to begin developing some pilot projects to explore how AI and machine learning tools might be helpful for improving performance and creating efficiencies. For example, automated text analysis programs might help organizations derive valuable insights from consumer comments, product reviews, and descriptions of competitor products. So these are sort of my 4 key recommendations, but as a 5th bonus recommendation, I'd advise organization leaders to think about new approaches to education and training for their staff in the area of data literacy. And this might be anything from short in-house sessions to a full master's degree, such as the one that I direct. There are a lot of options out there, and I think leaders will find that developing their employees' analytical skill sets benefits everyone.
That's some great advice. I appreciate you sharing those, and we'll look for the IBM report in the future. When will that be available, by the way, Jen?
Within, I would estimate a couple of weeks. I've approved the final manuscript, so quite soon.
Excellent, thank you. So obviously, the work that you do around policy and governance, there's a lot of various kinds of news in these areas, and specifically around voting rights and redistricting that took place back in the 2020 census. And you directed a project on congressional redistricting and its effect on the outcome of elections. Again, this seems like another great use of data and analytics to deliver real value. And I think our audience would love to hear more about the research and how you were able to use data to deliver on this project.
Yeah, there's been a lot of research on using data and analytics to inform congressional redistricting, but there are some big challenges facing this area. One of these challenges is agreeing upon a criterion for what defines a good versus a bad congressional district.
So Jen, I want to thank you on behalf of CDO Magazine for joining us today. I've certainly learned a lot and appreciate your time and insights on this particular topic. And for others that want to learn more about CDO Magazine or to view more interviews, please visit cdomagazine.tech. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.